Hey everyone, welcome to Between Two Sites, the podcast from myself, Alon Herbert, and my co-host Kenny Stewart. Uh, Say hi, Kenny.
Hi.
This is the gaming podcast where we both write for two various different websites. For myself, it is nzgamer.co.nz, and for Kenny, it is unitedfrontgaming.com.
Yes.
And yeah, we're just basically writers from two different sites in two different countries. I'm in New Zealand, Kenny's based in the US, and we just thought it was a cool idea to come together and talk about things, not only just games themselves, but also the industry that we're both a part of and really passionate about and love dearly. And yeah, just talk about various different things in it. This started because we used to have interesting debates slash discussions on Twitter, and we always thought it would be really fun and a lot easier and quicker if we could just have them like over a Skype conversation kind of thing and make a podcast out of it. And here we are with Between Two Sites. So
Awesome.
welcome, yeah, welcome and thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. This is episode one, episode zero, which is sort of our first test episode, is on United Front Gaming at the moment, where we discussed in great depth our thoughts on Bungie's Destiny. So if you want to have a listen to that, please go ahead and find it. But right now for this week, we're going to focus on two sort of topics. The first one we're going to kick into is GamerGate, which we'll get into that later, into a sec. And the other topic is a company called GameLock, which is sort of a new idea for the concept of games trade-in. So we'll talk about their idea and then our personal thoughts on the whole trade-in system in the gaming industry and the impact that it may or may not be having. So on to Gamergate. Gamergate is something, if you don't know what Gamergate is, consider yourself really fortunate and skip this whole half of the podcast and go to the other half. You just you're so much better off just not knowing. Um,
I
but
agree.
yeah, because it's really awful in so many ways, and not like from both sides' perspectives. But yeah, so Kenny, I want to kick off with your thoughts on Gamergate, where you're at with it. I mean, I don't really feel we need to go into too much detail of explaining exactly what it is because it's kind of a long story. So we're
Right.
going to have a discussion with the assumption that people have a basic knowledge of what it is and the people sort of involved in it. And if you're ever unsure of what we're talking about, and you really want to put yourself through finding out, just Google it. You won't have any trouble finding a lot of different pieces written about it in detail, giving the history of the situation.
Correct. So yeah, GamerGate is interesting with we're not gonna go into how it came about, but what it is currently, and yeah, it's not nice, and I know that there are people that identify with GamerGate. They use the hashtag and they feel
Mm,
that they have a reason, or not. I want to say a reason. They're looking for like ethical practices in game journalism, which everybody wants that. Everyone wants to you know the consumer, on the consumer side. You want to be given the truth about the
mm,
products that you're going to buy, and on the journalist side, you want to be able to be trusted. So
mm.
obviously this everybody wants ethics, and the problem with GamerGate. Actually, let me go back. There's multiple problems with GamerGate, but
Yeah.
one of them is that there's no unified voice. I was reading a couple articles about it, and and just my own observations. And there's some people that want this, some people want that, some people are screaming this, some people are screaming that, and because there's no unified voice of reason
Yeah, or
within
leadership.
exactly within GamerGate, it's very hard for people to kind of, I don't want to say deal with them because they're gamers, you know. But
Mm,
just to address like what do you want, it's very hard because so many people want different things, and there's the idea that hey, we can't block out the trolls, because the trolls are going to get the hashtag Gamergate and they're going to say a bunch of horrible things, and it's
mm,
not our fault. The problem is that there's so many people using this tag, and because you don't have a central voice, what's going to rise to the top? What's going to be the negative stuff? And it's gotten to the point where no matter what your stance on Gamergate, you can't really use the hashtag anymore because it's been polluted.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly. It's poisoned. It's tainted
yeah,
completely.
it's like I forget the name of the original symbol, but the symbol that was turned to the side, and now it's the Nazi symbol, swastika symbol or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you
Hmm.
can't go back and use the other symbol, at least not in most countries. It's just especially not in Germany. um,
Mm.
I mean, so like, it's kind of the same thing with or GamerGate. um, and then on the flip side, there's this stuff that's happening with the female journalists, female gamers, the bashing, the harassment. I read that just recently that uh, I forget, is it Sarkeesian?
Yeah. Anita Sarkeesian.
Anita, yes. People got her address and were going to, sit on her lawn and protest and all this other stuff. And I'm like, why do you need to know my address? Like, does that not seem invasive to you? Like, I get it that you want to be heard, fine, but you're going to the point of going to someone's house, like, complete stranger, and grouping up, a mob of you grouping up to go to this person's house. Like,
Mm.
does that not seem like a bad idea? You could, because a lot of them are screaming that they aren't misogynistic, and they're not, you know, they just want to be treated fairly. They don't want gamers to be labeled as such a horrible thing, which has been happening recently
Mm.
which is, that's bad too. But when you think about what your, I don't know, comrades are doing,
Mm.
you kind of need to, uh, distinguish, or not distinguish, but separate yourself from Gamergate. Then you need to separate yourself. Maybe do a different movement. I don't know. I know we have the
Mm.
Stop Gamergate thing going, but you need to separate yourself so then we can actually hear what you have to say, and it's not caught up with all this murky craziness that's going on
Mm.
Twitter and online. Like, someone's private information, you know, their whereabouts, their phone numbers, email addresses, whatever. There should be. I don't care how much you disagree with someone. You should never be putting this stuff on the internet to hurt someone. I don't.
Yeah.
You know. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, just exactly that. Like what? Like they are trying to hurt someone in a very personal way. They're getting involved in someone's personal life and trying to kind of destroy the. And again, the whole. And look, I mean, if we're going to be really blunt about it, and again, it's so for me in my mind, I've kind of so a lot of people call GamerGate GG just as an easier way of saying it. So for the sake of making this discussion a little bit easier, I divide it in my head as like good GG and bad GG. So the bad GG are the people who do the threats, the harassment, the really awful things, and the good GG are potentially the ones who are saying, well, no, like we don't like this stuff, we don't want to be associated with that. We're not associated with that in our to us. It's purely about ethics. So but it's just this weird divide because the thing is the good GG aren't doing anything about the bad GG. They're not
Right.
doing. And also, at the end of the day, you know what? Like everyone is talking about Gamergate like it's a movement or like an organization. It's not. It's a hashtag.
Right.
Like it's a hashtag. No, but that's what it is. It is a hashtag. That is not an. Firstly, it can't be an organization because the organization requires
Organization.
being organized, which they're just not. It's
Exactly.
not really a movement because again, most movements tend to have leadership or at least a common goal, an immediate goal. And even there, if you speak to different people who say they are a part of Gamergate, they all have different ideas in their mind of what the goal is. To me, it's funny. It reminds me of the that Occupy movement from a few years back.
Right.
Where it's a similar thing. It was leaderless, and if you spoke to different people of it, they all had different ideas of what they thought it was actually about or trying to achieve.
Which is funny because they were more organized.
Yeah, they were more organized, but still, it was still just a mess where there wasn't
Right.
an actual voice or idea behind it. And the thing is, so with Gamergate, look, the brand of Gamergate is just gone. Like it's become a PR disaster for them. And again, it's not a movement or anything. It's a hashtag. Just stop using the hashtag then. Like the hashtag, as you said, it's become tainted. It's become poisoned and all that. So just stop using it. Find a different. If you really need a hashtag to identify this, find a different one. I don't think you need a hashtag though. Have the good GG, what they apparently supposedly are doing is just going and commenting on Twitter about things. They're leaving comments on different articles within the websites that they are against or whatever, which again is such a weird thing because it's like if you don't like what a certain website, if you think there is an ethical issue within a particular site, stop visiting that site.
Exactly. Like what?
Just go to that site. Don't try and pull advertising from them and all that because again, like this is your opinion. You disagree with them, and that's totally cool. You are entitled to that opinion, but don't pull advertising and try and destroy that site because A, that's people's jobs and livelihood for their family, and B, other people do go to that site, so obviously they don't necessarily agree with your opinion. So you don't get to dictate to other people, and you don't get to use really you can't like it's again it's funny, so like they're saying there's the ethics side of it, but then like you're trying to pull advertising, you are trying to force them to do what you want. How's that ethical?
Exactly. And which is
But then you have the good GG saying, well, that's not us doing that, and then it's like, well, then what are you doing?
yeah, because I don't I personally don't believe that based on what I've seen, and it's one of those things where it's less hostile. Like the good GG to me is less hostile than the bad
Mm.
GG. It isn't.
Yeah.
It's not void of hostility because a lot of the people who are the good GG will condone the actions of the bad ones. A lot of the times they'll say like, well, this person brought it on themselves, and this person, it's okay for them to, call for, a company to pull their advertisement from a site if they don't agree. No, it's not. Like, whatever happened to, and I thought, excuse me, that this was just something like, I guess, in the U.S., but apparently it's not. Whatever happened to just not going to a particular site or purchasing a particular product if you don't like, there's no point in saying EA is the worst company in the world and you vote them the worst company, which is absurd, by the way. They're a
I
gaming
know,
company.
I know. Yeah, I know.
But why not just don't buy any EA games? It's very simple and it saves money and time, something that apparently a lot of people have too much going around.
Hmm.
Like pulling an advertisement or making a company pull their ads. Now these people can't make money. It's the way that they make money. And what's crazy about this is you still go to the site. So you stop them from making money, yet you still go to the site for the information that you were getting when they were being paid. So you're getting this stuff for free now, and it's okay. Like that's ethical to you, but all the stuff that they're doing, the possible, look, I'll say this: I've never been part of IGN, never been part of game trailers.
Mm.
Though I've met them, they're awesome people. Um, I've never been part of like really really huge sites. I've been writing for 7 years though, or 7 or 8 years, and I written for different sites, different sizes and whatnot,
Mm.
and I have yet to see any type of unethical stuff going on. I'm pretty sure that there are. There's the funny, embargoes where a certain site gets certain information before all the other sites. I don't like that.
Mm.
But as far as like cold hard facts or evidence showing that someone took some money and ruined, a game or praised the game for money or whatever, it just doesn't. You don't see it. I mean, it's going to happen in every industry, but as far as like a widely spread, we have to burn Kotaku, we have to burn IGN, makes no
Mm.
sense. Just stop going there. Just stop. Like I don't frequent IGN as much as I used to. I still
Mm.
like the site, but there's some writers that I don't agree with, and so I don't read their
Mm.
stuff. Simple as
Yeah.
I took my business elsewhere. Basically, I didn't ruin their life. There's
Yeah.
you can disagree without hating someone. You can disagree without hurting someone. It is not that big of a deal. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I do not wake up every day and I'm like, you know what? I really need to go punch that, Kotaku guy in the
Yeah.
face. Like,
Yeah.
no, I have better things to
Exactly.
do.
Yeah, exactly. Just don't read like yeah, and I'm exactly the same. Like there's like I actually stopped listening to one of IGN's podcasts because I just really don't like and often disagree with one of the hosts of one of their podcasts. I don't need to like name the guy. I don't need to attack the guy. I think he's probably a really good guy. I just don't like listening to his opinions on things, so I stopped listening to that podcast. I still listen to other podcasts of IGN people who I do enjoy and listen to, but it's like you have there is, you know what? I think the perspective we kind of keep we need to get back to is we're talking about video games. Like, really? Like, you need to destroy someone else's life because they're trying to change video games?
As if
Like,
someone,
really?
as if one person could change all of gaming. Like,
Exactly.
really?
Yeah, like, exactly. Anita Sarkeesian, the work she is doing, firstly, who can't, like, it doesn't matter. Like, she's criticizing something. She's allowed to do that. She's allowed the same way you are allowed your opinion to not like what she does, she is allowed her opinion to not to explore gaming and the way it treats women or shows women and comment on that. She's allowed to do that. If you don't like that, cool. You can just not watch her stuff, or worst case scenario, you can, yeah, go and write your. We live in an internet world. Go and write something, but don't write in a way that attacks her. Write just your thoughts on it, or if you disagree, how you disagree, but do it in a civil way and never attack her personally. Attack her work. Because that, if it's really an ethical thing, then you have an issue with her work. Attack her work, not her personally. Disagree. Have a
It,
disagreement, not
exactly.
threaten her. Don't call don't threaten a massacre shooting at a school that she's going to go talk at in order to cancel her speech.
Yeah,
Like,
like,
what's wrong with you? Like, what do you even,
oh my god.
what are they even wanting to accomplish? Like, what's the goal with that? What are you hoping to achieve? And again, acts like that, by the way, things like that is terrorism. That is terrorism, because terrorism, by definition, is using fear fear of what it's basically just using fear to silence and control people.
Yeah,
And that's what the bad GG is doing, and that is terror. It's a form of terrorism.
yeah, and
They
it's
are terrorizing these people.
to an extent, it's the good GG as well because, like I said, they're condoning. So they don't condone everything, but they condone other smaller forms of harassment, and really, no form of to me, anyways. I understand that it's the internet. You got to have some tough skin. Cool, but you know, you really, I don't agree with everything Anita says. I really don't. I think
Yeah.
she reaches a lot, but I think she should be heard. I don't have a problem with her. If I met her, we would probably have a interesting conversation, and that'd be that. I wouldn't, you know, try to destroy her world just because we disagree. Um, and even then, just being able to talk civilly, like you can bring something new to the table that maybe she didn't consider and would rethink some of her claims. I
Mm.
mean, it's you don't really win people to your side if you're calling them names, and this goes to the other side too because I know we've been talking about the GG people. There's journalists out there who are very much bashing all gamers as if we first of all we're not, and it was which is funny because I had to do this. I had to say the same thing about race recently because there's a lot of race issues going on, but we aren't like the Borg from Star Trek. We don't have like one mind and kind of like like a hive or something where we all
Mm-mm.
share the same thought. We're different people.
Yeah.
Gamers, whatever your race is, people within the race, everyone's different. Me and Alon, different. And so we have different ideas, different goals, different dreams, whatever. We share one banner though, and that's gaming, but it's not to the extent of everything else that I just mentioned. So, if that's the case, you can't say all gamers or gamers are this or all because it's a vast, it's so huge. Everyone's a gamer now. If you play, Pac-Man on your cell phone versus someone who's in the arcade, you're a gamer. If you're playing World of Warcraft or that horrible Candy Crush game on Facebook, you're a gamer. So a lot of these people though don't know what GamerGate is at all. So we can't just say and be like,
They're
the word
so
gamer needs
lucky.
to die, and you know, if you're a gamer, you're this, and because I can totally understand where someone would feel, it would be offensive, if you're just saying, you're a this just because someone else did something. Totally understand that, but
I don't.
it's well, no, I not in terms of GamersGate because again, you can distance yourself, but as far as a person who plays video games, uh, I am not white. I am a male, but I'm not white. I'm not. I'm
What?
not. You know what I mean? I'm not
Yeah.
racist. I'm not evil towards women. I have two daughters. I want them to play video games.
Mm.
When they get older. You know what I mean? So like I don't. I don't fit the mold of what some of the journalists are saying. So when you say that, I'm like, okay, well, I am a gamer. I do play games, but I'm not this. So can you just not call me that? And so I get the frustration there, but the attacks on both sides, as opposed to like a civil conversation, is just foolish, and it doesn't lead anywhere. It just makes people angry, and we get this whole thing because really GamerGate or GG should have blown over a long time ago, but it keeps
Yeah.
getting stirred up by, you know, to be frank, people who want, hits, and the people who like to harass people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so, all right, there's a few topics in that. So one, see, I don't know. My issue is I feel like a lot of people in gamer, the whole gamer game, and there's some the good GG is they've got this weird like persecution complex. Like they feel like they're being victimized in some way. It's just they're not. Like you know what? Yeah, all those articles they say like like there was an article or something like the gamer is dead. And that's literally them just saying like the word. They don't mean like the gamer, like because people play games. Obviously, gamers still exist, but the idea of that word isn't right anymore, kind of thing. Or the whole that gamers are harassers or they threat or they're misogynists and all these sorts of things. You know what? I'm a gamer. I've been my whole life. You know how offended I am by that? None, because I know they're not talking to me.
True,
I
true.
know they're not. So I'm not going to sit here and feel like, oh, like I'm not going to make myself the victim in this scenario because they're not talking to me. I know they're not talking about me. So what reason do I have to be offended by what they're saying?
Well,
That's
I will point this out, and it's a different, I guess, a different way of looking at things. Um, like I said, there was a lot of race because I was talking about race on Twitter
Mhm.
recently, and a lot of there's been I don't know if you've seen the news, but a lot of like shootings and stuff going on with police officers and
Ferguson and everything. Yeah.
right. So the idea that how do I say this? So we can't look at like what the cops are doing because blacks are killing more blacks, or if blacks would just do this, or if blacks would do, or African American, whatever you want to say, but if they would just do this, then they wouldn't have to worry about this. The even though I know they're talking about a very small, minute group of people within, I guess, black culture, which isn't even a
Mhm.
thing. Um, yeah, they're still looking at me when they say it, even though they're not talking.
Mm.
Like I've never, I've gone to college, I'm married, whatever. I, I don't. It's
Mm.
still like they're looking at me, so I can totally. I get what you're saying. Like I'm not gonna force myself to be offended, but I can relate a little bit based on when people use generalizations to paint a picture of what a person is because of what other people are doing around them. I totally get that.
You know what? I would totally get that if gamers in any way in their actual day-to-day lives or anything were being impacted by those articles or statements. But they're not. Like you're right. Like what you're saying when it comes to like race and stuff, yeah. The thing is, end of the day, like yeah, you potentially can't you know, go to certain places wearing a hoodie because that might be, 'cause you might get a problem with the police kind of thing for absolutely no reason of fault of your own because they've got their own prejudicial issues that unfortunately they're in a position of power to take advantage of that. It's the same as like after 9/11 suddenly all Arabs are terrorists. It's
Exactly.
just and I agree that's horrible because that impacts their lives on a daily basis. They can't escape that.
True. True.
As a gamer, I'm sorry, when they wrote the article "Gamers are Dead," it's not like those journalists are going to PAX all of a sudden and glaring at everyone they see.
True.
You know,
True.
then they don't.
Valid
That's
point.
it. They don't hate gamers. They love game. They are gamers. You think they're talking about themselves? There isn't a like. That's the thing. You're not anyone who feels persecuted by those articles. You need to look in the mirror and think to yourself, why are you being offended by that? Because that's on you. That's your own personal issue there. If you are a good person, they're not talking to you. They're not like the whole generalized like yeah okay it is a generalization of the word gamer but they don't mean it that way because they're gamers again they're not talking about themselves they don't
I
mean
agree. I
it's more
agree.
it's you know what it's the word it's the same way like how I believe the word feminist has the meaning behind the word feminist has changed and it's become negative it's no
True.
longer the powerful and positive word that it once was and that was even acknowledged in that UN speech by The girl who played Hermione in Harry Potter. I can't remember her name all of a sudden.
Oh,
Uh,
I just call her Hermione. It
Not
works.
important. Okay, sure. I mean, I don't want to offend her. She's more than just that one character that she played in 6 or 7 movies, but still. Anyway, even in the speech that she gave, like she started a new movement that is about equality for both genders. And even in that speech, she said the word feminist is not as good. We need a new word. Yeah, that was the thing she said is they need and they're trying to think of one. They haven't come up with it yet, but they're trying to think of a new word because feminist isn't a good word anymore, and it doesn't have the right results. Gamergate is kind of the same thing. They just like if they want, they can get a new word. Again, I don't think they necessarily need a word, so it doesn't matter. But I think gamer. We need a new word, and look, I've actually thought this for a few years now. Not because it's not because I'm ashamed of gamer or anything like that, but it's more just because I feel like gamers ourselves, we've come so far. We're so much more, like back in the day, like the image of gamer of being like the kid in his mother's basement. Like we're not there anymore, and the world and
Well, that was
a
false back
significant
then. So I mean,
exactly, and but the nice thing is, so much of the world doesn't even think that anymore. Like we've come so far. Like gamer is cool now. Like it's not even seen in that negative way. But I feel like let's get a new word now. Like we are more than what we were. We are so much better than what we are. And yeah, but with that said, you know what? There are some people who are the same way. There are a lot of people who ruin the word feminist. There are people who are ruining the word gamer. Because things like you said, like voting EA as the worst company. I guarantee you, it's gamers doing that because non-gamers don't know what EA is. So it's gamers doing that. And it's not all gamers. It's not like I didn't go and vote for it. I'm a gamer. I'm not talking about myself, but there are some gamers out there who are giving the name a bad meaning.
I agree. I
So,
100% agree.
and I think we can find a new word but again, either way, it comes down to with regards to the GamerGate situation. Those people, it's just a persecution complex. They're victimizing themselves, but they're doing it themselves. No one is actually attacking them. And if they feel they're being attacked, then maybe they are one of the ones doing something wrong.
True.
Or you of somehow. Yeah. With that said, I do think there is a few little issues around. Uh, I do feel some of gaming media at the moment is kind of unfair. Well, not. I feel there's the potential that they are creating a narrative to slant Gamergate even more than it potentially deserves. So, for example, there is a female game developer named Brian Wu that had some just disgusting tweets sent to her, threatening to kill her, and then threatening to kill her and various other things. And then the final tweet was basically saying her address, so pointing out the guy knows where she lives.
Yeah,
She
it's
had to call the
horrible.
police and leave her home. Just disgusting and unacceptable completely. Now, every article posting about that has basically said that was Gamergate. But the thing is, like, is like, but no article actually says why they are linking that to Gamergate, like why it's associated with Gamergate. So it's one of those and again, it's kind of weird because then that comes to that whole ethical side of the debate that the good GG want to talk about, where it's like, okay, so here you have a movement. I'm saying that with like the whole inverted comma things. That is saying, well, we want to talk about ethics in game journalism, and then you have game journalists writing articles to basically make that the meaning of the word for that movement bad, to say no, that movement is not about ethics, it is about misogyny and threat and harassment and silencing women and all these things, and just kind of and all these horrible things that are happening, and they've been happening for a long time, much longer than Gamergate's been around. Women being harassed in the industry has been around for a long time, and it is a problem that needs to be looked at and solved in some way if we can. But they're now associating all that to Gamergate, sometimes without providing any evidence of how this particular event is linked to Gamergate in any way. So it's almost like the media creating a narrative to vilify Gamergate.
And in doing so, there's more of it comes out because they're basically stirring the pot to get hits. Yeah, we've seen that with
A little bit.
a lot of stuff. I mean, and there was a questionable you know article that was comparing, the stuff that happened in Watch Dogs to Ferguson, and I, I, I'm like, okay, it's cool to have an opinion, but I'm like, I wouldn't have went that route. Maybe,
Mm,
at least a little bit more. I don't know what's the word. I just probably wouldn't have done it. But yeah, like
right.
it's basically like something's going on that's negative. We want people to look at us, so we're gonna cover it in such a way that continues it. So then we can have another article about it later.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally agree. And with all that being said, we are done with GamerGate. We with GG stop GamerGate. I'm gonna look towards the video games. I'm not even thinking about it anymore. I'm just gonna scroll up from my Twitter, you know, stream or whatever, and just move past it. I'm not gonna. It's done. We're done. Let's move on to something
All right.
more important.
And from my end, I don't want to say done because to me it's a sort of that whole if you not saying anything, just ignoring it is almost kind of like saying it's okay, if that sort of makes sense. But what I would like to say is I want both. I do want both sides. I want Gamergate to go away, and I do want the anti-Gamergate side in the media. I want them to kind of stop as well.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
mean it in such a way that like if
Yeah,
something
I
if
know.
yeah if harassment happens, we should definitely talk about it.
Mm,
The Anita stuff, it's crazy, and I've said that on Twitter and in other places. Like that's just yeah, it makes us look well, not us. It makes them look horrible. But yeah, in terms of like, I guess stirring the pot is where I'm like I'm done. Like I don't want to. There's not going to be
mm,
an article on you. There hasn't been actually an article about it on United Front Gaming because we don't want to kind of keep things going. However, we
mm.
have spoke about it, kind of like what we're doing now, to kind of
Yeah.
like make people aware. But we're not gonna keep it. So we're not gonna do it just to get hits. If it's not something meaningful, I'm not gonna put it up.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, even for this podcast, originally you and I had discussed whether or not to talk about Game Again. We originally had said no,
Exactly.
and we weren't going to. But then everything got stirred up again this week, and it just kind of, it just. I was really hopeful that it was going away because it hadn't come up for a few days too much, and then it just came up again really strong. And then the whole Stop Gamergate tag came out, hashtag came out this week. So yeah, it's just I felt it's something just we almost can't ignore it anymore. You know, it needs to be discussed in some way. Not even if it's not specifically like taking a specific stance or side, it should be discussed. Um, I mean, obviously, the stance and side is against harassment and all those things. That's awful. And at the end of the day, I mean, look, there never will be a discussion around ethics while the bad GG is doing what they're doing. If good GG even wants to have a discussion around ethics, if they need to get that to somehow stop. And I'm not saying get it not associated with them. I mean get it to. They need to work with with the media to get that to actually stop as best they can. Because in the day, media are never going to come to the table to have the discussion when some of the people who you're not bringing to the table, but they're following you to the table, are bringing guns to the conversation.
Yeah.
So justifiably, why would media ever want to have that conversation? At the end of the day, they're threatening and harassing and frankly pissing off the people who actually can do the changes that they want, with regards to ethics and all stuff. But then then also breaks up of, even good GG splits up so much. Like it's ethics, but then some people just know it's ethics, but it's just anti-feminism or anti-social justice warrior. But that stuff doesn't have anything to do with ethics. So just
It's
becomes
just
mess.
it's messy, and at the end of the day, either, and I know it's kind of a loaded thing to say, but if you don't like what's being printed, then make your own. It's
Yeah.
rather easy nowadays to
Mm.
start your own, especially with YouTube being as popular as it is. We're going to talk about that in another cast, but
Yeah.
it's very easy to kind of do that, or go to sites that speak to what you're looking for. I frequent Game Informer and Game Trailers outside of the fact that I know I met some of them, but because I like what they have to say and I like what they do, and so it makes it easier. Same thing with if I go to the Escapist or Kotaku, I like what some of the stuff that they're saying, so I go there. The other places I don't go too much because I don't like what they're saying, and that's just it. everybody
Yeah,
wins. You still get the information
exactly.
that you want. All of them are covering the biggest events, so you're not going to miss
Yeah,
anything there. And if you don't want the, I don't know, social stuff or whatever, then there. But I guess you do have to realize at the end of the day, you're probably going to have to make some of the stuff that you're asking for, because if if we see it, we're going to talk about it in the
mm,
game. That's just how it is. Mario, we're probably not going to talk about a lot of that stuff, social stuff, but in games like Far Cry, we probably are, and
mm.
you're just going to have to take that or find someplace that doesn't do that. Maybe a user review on Metacritic or whatever, but you're going to have to live with it. Basically, you can't burn everything down because then you have nothing. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And again, yeah, it's the whole conversation of like they don't want certain things talked about because like it's going to censor the game developers. It's like no, that it's not. Like end of the day, those games, the games that you like are still selling for bazillions of dollars. They're not going to stop making those games. Don't worry. It's just other developers or indie developers might try and make different games that appeal more to other people, and that's fine. So, chill, relax. Like again, it's the whole like just let it. All that happens is going to become more inclusive, and that's not a bad idea.
Not at all. Not at all.
So, yeah,
So,
but yeah, let's move on from GamerGate though. I think we've said yeah, and again, people, it's video games. Just relax. It's not impacting your like. It's a great part of your lives. We all love it, but games should be about fun and inclusiveness and joy and hope and all that stuff. It shouldn't be about negative stuff. So don't make it negative.
that's the key phrase right there. Don't make it negative.
Yeah.
Um, so our next topic
Yep.
is on a lighter note. Has to do with used games. There's a new company, or new-ish company, I should say, that is changing how the trade-in business works. And I kind
Well,
of like what they're
I
doing.
mean, they're introducing a new idea. We don't know how successful it's going to be
Well,
because they haven't
true.
actually. Have they started yet?
They have started, but I don't.
Okay.
It's in Jerusalem, so I mean, there
Hmm.
there you go. In terms of
Well, it's
like,
not. It's an online business, so it's not like don't worry. You have to like go to a store in Jerusalem to do it.
oh, right. But I guess in the terms of like, it's not huge yet, so there's not
Yeah.
going to be a shift anywhere just yet. However,
Mm.
the ideas that they
That's
brought about is actually pretty good, I think.
great.
Um,
Yeah.
and I know that we're kind of on different sides when it comes to the ability to trade in games.
Mhm.
And but this one looks like it's a win-win for everybody. I'll just kind of briefly. This was on VentureBeat. I want to give them a shout out because I saw it on there and I thought it was a cool thing.
Yep.
The
Cool.
name of the company is GameLock, and online store. And basically, what they do is when you go to buy a game, they will let you know the total cost of the game minus what you would get if you trade it back in, and it's based on I guess like a 30 to 60 day type of thing. So, if you look at the game, it'll say, like, for instance, they have on the site Hyrule Warriors. Right now, it's $22.32 because they subtract $30.83 via what you would have gotten if you would have traded it in. If you keep it for, I want to say, 30 days, that's the price. If you keep it for 60 days and you give it back to them, you'll only pay $26.04. If you keep it for 90 days, it's 29, so basically $30, which is still pretty awesome. 90 days. I mean, most
Mm.
games don't take that long to beat. Um,
Yeah.
so that's pretty awesome. What's also cool is on the flip side, because I know there's a lot of people who are like, the journalists aren't getting paid and all this good stuff. Not journalists. I'm sorry. The developers and publishers aren't getting paid when you do trade-ins. They're actually giving some of the money to the publishers and developers when you trade in with them. So it's
Well,
like,
the article doesn't say they're doing it. They're saying that they're discussing doing it.
oh, I'm sorry.
So
They're
they're open to
discussing
the
it.
idea of doing that. It's not
Yeah,
something
yeah.
they're actually doing it, and that's where I kind of with my Simon's like I like the idea. I think it's a clever business idea. I especially like the way that it's the pricing structure is so clearly laid out for you, so you immediately know when you buy, how much you will pay depending on how long you choose to keep the game before you trade it back in. I like that. It's really clear, and you know exactly where GameStop or EB Games on my end, is a little ambiguous about that, and you generally only know when you go into the store and ask, and it's different for each game. Where here
Right.
it's very clearly laid out. But again, where we fall differently is I personally don't like the used game part of the industry. I think I think there are times where it is hurting the industry a lot. So I don't like that. You kind of disagree, and that's all right. We've that's something we can maybe get into a bit later. But the reason this side I'm kind of okay with them is only if those discussions go in the right direction, that they do start giving some of that money towards the publishers, because that's my issue. That's the only reason I think trade-ins are bad, is because GameStop and EB Games cut the publisher out of any money. So you make a game, they sell it, and you don't get any return for it. They get all the profits. I think that's horrible.
Well, see,
And of course, how can a developer stay in business that way? If they get the money from the initial sales, but then there's a whole bunch of other sales where people are buying used copies of the games as opposed to the new ones, and you're not getting anything out of it.
well,
And you have a business that's the thing. Like, people say, well, the people could do it all the time. It's like used cars in a way. You could just put it up on eBay or sell it to your friends at school or whatever. It's like, yeah, that's cool. You're right. You can, but that involves a lot of effort from you to go and do. It's not an entire business designing its business model around that concept and promoting and spending marketing money towards promoting that idea. That's a whole different animal entirely.
Well, I mean, that's actually the case with used cars, and I don't know, people they like to say that used cars, that's a bad scenario, but you think about it, that used to be the case. They used to be in the same issue as the publishers and developers are now, but they got into the market. They started their own dealerships, and they got their own cars traded back to them to sell you their new cars, because essentially that's how the economy works. At the end of the day, no one's gonna. I mean, we look at October and November. There's so many games coming out. So many ridiculous amount of game, and $60 a pop or 50 or whatever. It's very hard for everyone to afford it, and I'm pretty sure that the developer who, or let's just say, Bungie and Destiny, a lot of the people who bought that game traded in older games so they can actually purchase it. They had the money to do it, because otherwise, holding off to buying Call of Duty or whatever, you're not gonna be able to get this one particular game. It happens all the time. I review games, and I still don't. Games are sent to me for free to review, and I still don't get to play half of the games that come out. And not to say that you're entitled. What I'm saying is that there would be a lot less games being purchased if there was no used market, just like there would be a lot less cars and everything else being purchased if there wasn't some type of used market. Now,
Wait, I'm
not. Wait, and that's which is funny, because we didn't want to do this, just because we've been doing this for years. But the thing is that I'm under the belief, because it's basically in the law, and I get it that maybe law should change. We see that a lot with copyright because it's horrible. But as the law right now, it's like, well, if you get the initial sale, then you aren't. You don't get the other stuff. You don't get, if I give it to my brother or sell it to my brother, you don't get that money. And you shouldn't necessarily want that money, because you already got what you got for the game, because you know what I mean? Like, you already got the initial sale. And then the fact that, GameStop and other stores, they get like very little on the initial sale. It's, in a sense, you kind of set this up yourself. So, you can't be but so angry. But that's going into whether or not used games should be here or not isn't really what we wanted to talk about. What we wanted to talk about is this idea, and I think, like you said, giving the publisher or developer some of the money that they get for used games, I think that's a good idea. I think that not so much because I think they deserve it, because I don't, and that's not in a way of knocking someone who wants money. That's not what I'm saying. I just don't think it's something that they don't have to do, but it's a cool idea that they are doing it. And if they can actually come to, because I'm reading the article, they're saying that it's something that they're willing to discuss individually with each publisher, and that would be kind of like up to them how much or less. And then they also said that it wouldn't raise the price for customers. So we kind of keep this economy thing going. I can still afford to play your game and still give you some money for it, whether it's the used, because you can decide to keep the game if you want, and it's you'll end up paying the whole amount. The company that is selling your game new, even though they're getting like a few bucks for it, and you're getting the bulk, they're getting something back with the used, and then also you're getting some money with the used as well. So everybody can continue to. I can purchase a game, trade it, and then purchase another one from you, trade it, and then purchase another. You get some of that money, the company gets some of that money, and everybody wins. So I think it's a good idea. I think that I really think that GameStop should look into something along these lines because it's so easy. When you think about it, you have to do this online with the store right now, and it's in Jerusalem. Whereas GameStop is everywhere, just about. Um, you could essentially walk into a store and give them your game, and then they can send some of the money off, you know, to the publisher developer, and everybody. It's a win-win thing that we don't have to fight over dollars. I get it. It's a business, but I think it just would work so much better this way, and people know what they're getting up front. They know what they're paying for, and you're not stuck with the game. If you pay like $60, you don't like it. You're like, oh well, like, you know, my moral choices won't let me trade it in, but I just wasted $60. No, you can still do that and feel okay about it. I really think this is good, and I really hope it does pick up and publishers are really ready to do that sort of thing. Or at the very least, maybe start their own or not digital, online stores where they can do it themselves. Because I'd be willing to do that. I'd be willing to trade to a publisher to get one of the publisher's newer games. I'd be willing to do that.
Yeah, well, I actually really like I see a lot of potential in that EA Access thing.
Oh,
yeah, I see potential in that. I mean, look, to me, end of the day, like as soon as you're looking at digital, like if like you were saying, they should, publishers create their own digital store, and look, they're starting to do that. I mean, EA is doing that now with Origin. I'm pretty sure almost all publishers now you can go to their website and buy directly from them, but not always digital versions though. So that's kind of probably the issue. But yeah, I agree. If every publisher can just start doing their own, I think that would be great. But I also think it would be awesome for those digital stores to have some kind of trade-in system. And
yes.
And let it be trade, because look, when you have a digital copy of the game, it's not a physical thing. The reality is, and a lot of gamers don't like this, although personally I think it really shouldn't matter too much, is you're not actually owning anything. You're effectively renting a license. Or not renting a license, you're purchasing a license that you hold for the game because you don't have a physical copy of that game.
I hate that, but I'll explain why in a second.
Yeah, no, look, I completely understand why some people hate it. I get that. I just think for the most time, it doesn't really impact you. But I can certainly understand where there is certainly room for that system to be horrifically abused, which is, something we'd always need to be aware of and cautious of. But what it could allow is a really cool trade-in system where you're effectively buying a game and you play the game for a while, and when you're done with it, instead of just keeping it in your like my Steam library is filled with games I am never going to play.
Yeah.
It would be really cool if every now and then I could actually just say, okay, you know what? Remove these from my libraries. These aren't my games anymore. I don't have access to the license for those games anymore, but it gets me a discount on a game I'm actually interested in.
That would be amazing. It really would, and I think Steam Valve was doing a little bit of that with the DLC, and I think it was like hats or something that you could sell back to them, and then they'll give you like a little bit of money. I think that would be a great idea because, like you said, one of the big hurdles is the fact that you don't really own it, and I would just say, like, for me personally, I can't speak on anybody else, but my personal experience, I've bought digital content from Microsoft on Xbox Live. I bought digital content on Steam or whatever and have lost that content. Now, I'm not talking about 10, 15 years later, finally the company goes bankrupt and I can't play it anymore. Fine, whatever. No, I'm talking about like within a year's time, I've lost content that I've purchased. And what was told to me was, well, when you get it, if you don't download it to your hard drive, it can be taken off the store and you don't have the access to it anymore. The thing is, though, I had it on my hard drive. When I go to start the game, it reverts to demo because the actual, I guess, whatever that tells it that you have the full game is no longer there. So I can't play it anymore. And because it was a year later, I was told that they didn't have record of me even buying it in the first place, which is odd that they don't have records of that, but whatever.
Yeah, that's weird.
But they were like, we're not going to give you a refund for it. So I'm like, wait a minute. This game that I bought that I really love, I can't play anymore because the company, you and the other company, I guess, had a falling out, or I don't know what happened in the background. And you're not willing to give me any type of
reimburse me in any
Yeah,
way.
and they were like, well, we can give you a free game, and I was like, oh, all right, a free game's cool. And he pointed me in the direction of a game that's already free on Xbox Live, and I don't. I was so
Well,
angry.
he wasn't lying.
Well,
He
but
he could give you that free game.
it was such a, you know what I mean? And so, like, those are the type of things that, and then we saw it with Steam not too long ago. One of their games they had, early on was taken down, and in order to get a refund, you had to go through a lot of like craziness. Even though they can tell that you bought the game, they know what's in your library. So those are the type of fears that I have with this all digital idea. If you can trade them in, though, at least there's that. At least I'm like, you know what? I can, flip this and to get something new. But when before they have that, I can't 100% say digital because I've had, and this is not just one like minor experience. I've had like movies and TV shows and stuff like that taken away from me. So I'm very hesitant about buying this stuff again because all of my DVDs that I've had for years still work fine. My VHS still work. Cassette tapes still work. My Nintendo cartridges still work. But my digital stuff that I bought a year ago doesn't. That is a huge problem.
Yeah, no, I understand. But with that said, it's kind of like, I mean, let's say technical fault happens. Let's say one of your DVDs stops working, it gets scratched or something. I mean, you're just as screwed. You can't get it replaced. Yeah, you can't. Your only option is to either it turn into a coaster or buy another one.
But at least in that sense, it's something that I did. Like if I left it out and stepped on it or something. But if it's just
all right, VHS wear and tear. Like VHS tapes stop working eventually. The quality of the tapes gets bad.
True, but not within a year. I've had tapes since like 1987, and they're still fine. They don't look as good, I will admit, but
that's just a VHS thing. Don't worry about it.
Exactly. they didn't stop working, and that's what I'm saying.
No, I agree. I also have like a closet full of VHS tapes somewhere.
Right, and so it's not the idea of that it'll eventually go away. I'm okay with that because everything you can't keep everything, but we're talking about a library of stuff that I'm trying to invest in that could be gone within a year's time, and it wasn't an old game either. It wasn't like I bought like I don't know what's something earlier that came on Xbox, like a really old Xbox game, and now it's gone with the Xbox.
I agree, and that's the thing. I agree. There's definitely issues with it, and I think companies should have better systems in place that if something goes wrong, of just kind of more immediately going, okay, cool, we understand the scenario, we are prepared to issue refunds for this product because we know something on our end has stopped you from being able to access that product you purchased. Like, I do agree. I think there is room for issues, and the companies should be more responsible to react when that happens quicker. So I do agree with you 100% on that. With that said, I like digital, so I really do hope things go in that direction, but I hope that more safety nets are designed by businesses while we go in that direction, so that things like that don't happen.
I hope so too, because there's so many, because there's new incentives now. You think about, like, you look at, so like Destiny, for instance, or not even Destiny, Call of Duty coming out. It's if you buy it on Xbox 360 digital, you can get the free version on Xbox One digitally. You know what I mean? So like it's there, and you got to install the games now anyways. So I mean, it makes sense. But I just need, like you said, there needs to be some safety nets, and hopefully we'll eventually get to the point where it's fine and we can have digital and we can trade in digital and everyone's happy. I don't think we're that far away yet. I don't, but. What I really think it is publishers aren't ready to cut ties with GameStop just yet. And GameStop isn't 100% ready for digital just yet.
GameStop's not ready for digital at all. They are terrified of it because it's going to destroy their business.
Well, they're trying. They're trying to get into it too. And in terms of like doing a system where you could sell digitally, the problem with that is there's sharing involved when you do that because it's digital versus a physical copy. They have to share their profits with publishers, and they're not too keen on that just yet.
Well, again, also because you can't trade it. Again, keep in mind, GameStop, the majority of GameStop's profits come from trade-in. They get more year-on-year revenue. They make significantly more money from trade-ins than they do buying selling new copies of games. That's why they push used copies and trade-ins so much.
Right.
They can't do that online. So once digital does happen, even if they move into that, they're going to be making significant losses year on year because
That's true.
that new business model just will not pay as much for them.
But do they need? Well, that's a whole nother story.
Well, it's a company. They need to make as much money as they can. And more importantly, they need to make as much money as they are used to making. And that's really corporate business, but that's a whole different discussion that isn't relevant, really.
Right. Right.
But yeah, the reason I like the EA is EA Access hints to me at a possible future that never actually occurred to me before. The idea of instead of buying games, what if you had a subscription model to a publisher? Kind of like, I guess, I think it's the way your cable, like TV stuff works in the US, where you guys subscribe to a channel and you just have all these TV shows available. Or maybe you have these TV shows available, but if you want these TV shows, you need to have a platinum subscription instead of the gold or something like that. So what if something like that? Like I have I pay $60 a year or whatever price is, and I have access to EA's library,
The
all
problem
digitally, and I just play whatever I want.
That's cool. The only thing is, and I see this happening. It's kind of happening already, where the stuff that you promised to have in other ways or other access in different ways, you've now restricted and put behind this gate. It's similar to it's like the reverse effect of Xbox Live, where Microsoft recently allowed you to have, you don't have to buy the gold subscription, but you can still use Netflix, and other apps like that. It's kind of like the opposite now. EA was like, you can do this, that, this, that, and the third, and then when they introduced this idea to everyone, they're like, oh yeah, those demos that you used to be able to play, you cannot play them anymore. You have to go through this sort of thing. And after a while, it feels like it's going to become a kind of like a competition on how much they can take or withhold. Because we have this slippery slope with how DLC is and how it feels like nowadays they're taking stuff that used to be a part of the game out. I feel like that's going to be the same way with these sort of subscriptions. They're going to take things that we used to get for free or used to be okay with, and they're going to start locking them off.
Behind the platinum version or the gold
Exactly.
version as opposed to the silver. Yeah, I mean, look, again, but the thing is, the nice thing with stuff like that is, as consumers, we can respond by going, no, that's a horrible deal you've designed for us. We're not going to buy it.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
the whole
yeah.
thing will just come. And that's the thing. As consumers, we can speak. We can say, through Twitter, through emailing the company or whatever, say, hey, we really like this concept, but these pricing and what we get for it, we are not, we don't see value in it. This would be a better structure. They would get a lot of different variations of that, but overall, it would help them they either would just say, okay, this can't work because we need to do it this way in order for it to be financially feasible for us. So therefore, we're just not going to do it because consumers they don't see value, so we can't use it. Or they go, okay, cool, we were trying to be greedy, we didn't get away with it. Oh well, we'll adjust it and give them this for that price. As long as if they can come up with a fair pricing, I think it's a really good idea. Like, and that's the thing. It doesn't have to be things like DLC. Like, yeah, they could do something like, okay, if you want to play the multiplayer of this, or
Exactly.
if you really want to fight the last boss fight, you need a platinum membership. I suppose that if they do stuff like that, they're idiots, and that would be terrible. But if they did things like, hey, if you have a gold membership, you get access to this game as part of the subscription. But if you have a platinum membership, you get access to this game 1 week earlier. That's cool.
That could work.
That's fine. And that actually, for some people, that would be a benefit worth paying extra for.
Yeah.
You will get into the closed, the beta demo that will come out 2 months before the game comes out, so you get to play it for a weekend. Like, or even that's like, okay, I have a gold subscription, you get to play in the beta for this weekend beta test. If you have a platinum, you will play for a whole week beta test. Like there's things that they can do. They need to be better. You're right. If they just hold back like content that people should be getting, that's bad. But if they add actual value and benefit to it, it could be a really good system.
Now let me ask you, and because since we're way off topic, anyways,
Yeah, yeah.
um, what about so like you look at like consoles, we have the subscriptions for PSN and you know Xbox Live,
Gold. Yep.
and then on top of that, so then you have your those things, and then you have these type of subscriptions via publishers. But we have a lot of publishers. Like I'm not gonna lie, I like games from EA, Activision,
Mm-hmm.
whoever. Eventually it's gonna add up to a lot of money. Granted, you'll get a lot of
Yeah.
games, but
Mm.
how would they kind of? I mean, that I can see it working really well, I guess, or better, not really well, but better on PC because outside you only have one internet that you have to pay for. You don't have to pay for two different internet, connections,
Mm.
like in the sense of so you want to play everything that in that
Yep.
sense, or is it something
Yeah.
where like because I know they're gonna do the thing where if you stop your subscription, you don't have access anymore. So it's like, man, I really want to play some Sony games. I want to play some Microsoft games, Ubisoft, EA or whatever, because they
Yeah.
all have stuff
But
coming out at the
if
same
you're paying
time.
a $90 subscription for each of them, that starts adding up to quite a lot each year.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and it's not like I mean it's very rare that I only want one game, a game from one particular company.
Yeah. No, and that I mean, ideally, you shouldn't want that because they're all making good games. So, in some, at least once or twice, they're making good games. Um,
Right.
yeah, I mean, look again. But that's the exact same problem that you guys have now with your TV networks, right? With like cable stuff. Like you have to pay a subscription for HBO, one for NBC, or again, But I know you get cable companies that offer packages, right?
Right. Well, it's actually that's the thing. It's actually on the decline. Like less and less people are, getting cable. More and more people are doing Netflix or Hulu because it's just becoming way too expensive. Because none of the package are a la carte. I know Verizon is going to try to do that later, but as of right now, it's a whole lot of channels that you don't want just to get those two or three channels, and
Yeah.
the price monthly is just way too much for a lot of people, and it's a lot of people are foregoing that, which is why we have HBO recently. They announced that they're doing a like HBO Go, but you don't have to have cable. And
Right.
I
Yeah.
think CBS just announced one too, where you can have
Mm.
their version and you don't have to have cable. So it's getting to the point where they're splintering off. So
Mm.
even there, it's like
So,
jumping into that with gaming is just
mm.
doesn't seem like a smart idea.
Well, no. I'll put it this way: if you just copy it, no. But if you learn from the mistakes that were made there, then it's a really good idea. Simple solution: you get so if every publisher, so it should be up to Sony and Microsoft to negotiate for this to be happening on their system, each of their systems, and just offer an a la carte option. Problem solved. Have different subscription packages based on which publishers they want to subscribe to.
Oh
Problem solved,
wow!
right? Pretty easy solution.
Ideally,
Just and look, I'm making this up, so I get to make this my dream situation, of course. Yeah,
I got
but
you.
look, if any smart business, in my mind, generally should be learning from learning from other businesses' mistakes, especially when you're trying to use a similar model to industries. Like if it's a different industry, but they used a similar model to yours, look at what worked and what didn't. What did consumers like? What did consumers dislike? And adjust your model. Find solutions. The main problem with cable and stuff that people didn't like is that there was no a la carte option. You were stuck by paying extra for things that you didn't actually want. Solve that by offering what they wanted, which is an a la carte option. Of course, that's not necessarily an easy thing because that's then something you need to negotiate with all the publishers. And that's the thing. It can't be each But that's the thing. Like, even with the TV networks, then you're now having HBO has a subscription for themselves. Well, yeah, you don't need cable. You still have to pay them separately, and then CBS so all they're doing is splintering away, where you will end up going with the initial problem that you raised of having to pay a separate subscription for each TV channel, and that will start to add up.
Yeah, then there's the people that are, I guess, vying for your attention. So, like, if Ubisoft is like, well, we think Assassin's Creed, Assassin's Creed is about to come out, and we think that there should be a bigger push for the subscription, via us, the one that includes us. How would that work out? You know what I mean? Like, I see a lot of problems. I think it would be cool, ideally, and I want to see what happens. I kind of want to, like, step away and just look at everything and see how it goes. But at the same time, I just see so many problems with the different companies not liking, like kind of bumping heads, that I'm like,
Yeah,
it's gonna be
potentially,
really
but I mean that's a competitive market, and that's what happens anyway.
true, true.
I mean that's always going to happen. But as long as they let them rather bump heads over something that's more beneficial for us than what isn't.
Right. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Like the systems they're going to be bumping heads trying to sell us stuff no matter what. So let them try bump heads over selling us using a better model that's more beneficial for us.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like seriously, if the option came and said, "Hey, if you pay, pulling a number, $300 a year," I mean, it's not an insignificant amount of money, but over a year, it's not too bad. Again, I'm making a number up, so I mean, there's no math or business deciding in this. But if they said that, and you basically can just play any game you want. And let's say that was a platinum version, so you will even get to play those games a week earlier. Those games will come, release date will be a week earlier for you than people paying a bit less, and you'll get access to the betas and all those things. That potentially would be worth it for a hardcore gamer. And they could have more. I mean, hell, you could. You know what? Imagine if they had one where it was like, okay, you can pay $90 a year. You get access to every game in our library 6 months after they come out. So you get every game. You just get to play it 6 months later. Every game that's been out for 6 months so far, they're available to you immediately now. But any new games coming out in the future, you get them 6 months later. But you're paying $100 a year, which is nothing. That's less than the price you would pay for 2 games.
That's not bad. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, and it's a way for developers to make some money on games that most games aren't selling in 6 months' time. So this is a way for developers even to make some money off of those older games.
Right, okay.
And if they lock you into that, I mean, over the course of, again, if they get 1 million people doing that over the course of 5 years, that's a lot of money.
It is. I'm still skeptical, but it's not a bad. It's not a bad idea.
Yeah, there's the potential there, but there's also the potential, as you said, for it to go horribly wrong, of them to do it in a way that would just more try to screw us over and not benefit us. In which case, we have the option just not buy into it.
True, and it's I just unfortunately I just see that happening more than the other. But we'll see.
And you might not be wrong.
Yeah. So I believe.
But I think.
Oh, go ahead.
We're kind of out of time.
Yeah, I was gonna say we went over. We were trying not to go over, but things happen, and we go over time.
Gonna happen.
I was going to talk a little bit about Alien Isolation, because I'm actually reviewing that. My review is gonna post pretty soon, so don't be surprised if you see the video of this has a bunch of Alien Isolation stuff. It's because I was going to talk about it, and I don't have any other video to put up. So there you go. Definitely check out United Front Gaming. And how did you say your site again?
nzgamer.co.nz.
NZ. See, I always say it wrong. I don't know why.
NZ, New Zealand.
There you
NZ.
go.
Where Lord of the Rings came from.
There you go. That's gonna be my new catchphrase. There you go. Check out both sites. Let us know what you thought about the podcast via Twitter. You can follow me at KennyUFG.
And I am at Alon133, which is AYLON.
Yes, because I would never know how to spell that. It's such a cool name, though. I was telling him on like old podcasts that it's something that I would see in like Final Fantasy. Like, I don't know why. It just makes sense. Like, who are you gonna pick? Well, I'm picking Alon. Like, that's just he's got to be powerful. I know it.
I'm with you until the point we say he's going to be powerful, because to me, if I'd say it, I'd be like, she's got to be powerful. It feels to me like it would be a female character's name.
Why do you think that?
I don't know. I don't know. If you look at it spelt it like in the sense of like an anime character, which, let's be honest, Final Fantasy are anime characters. I don't know. Something about the way it looks, it just, for me, seems more feminine, I guess. I'm okay with that. I'm very comfortable with it. I take no issue with this. I wouldn't have brought it up if I did. But yeah, I don't know. To me, the way it looks in writing always seemed to me like it could be more. It would seem more like a female name as an anime character, as a Western name. I have no idea what an Alon is supposed to be.
It's cool though. Yeah, it sounds cool. It's not your everyday, Bob.
No, no, that's true. I've never met another, so I'm very lonely most of the time.
All right, folks. Well, thanks for checking us out, and we'll be hopefully we'll be next week with well, actually it'll be episode 3, not episode 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're doing it bi-weekly, and yeah, it'll be less confusing, I promise.
Yeah, we're working on getting the structure right and the timing, so we keep more in line with the correct amount of time and topic. And hey, if you have any topic ideas or things that you'd like us to discuss, feel free tweet at us or just let us know. We'd love for to get feedback and have this be a two-way street with you listeners. That'd be awesome.
Definitely, and it's also going to be posted on YouTube, so you can check it out there. You can also check it out on my
Leave
site.
comments.
Yep, leave comments. Eventually, hopefully, it'll be on some other places like iTunes. I haven't. I'll just say I'm a little new to the editing and all this other good stuff. So those things are going to take a little while, but eventually we're going to get there. We're going to get there. So definitely let us know what you think. And any topics, shoot them this at us. I can't talk anymore, and we'll definitely discuss them on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much, and we will hopefully catch you for episode 2. This is Between Two Sites.
Good night.